PR Connections Radio presents.
Hi everyone, welcome. Welcome to the first episode of Liberating Menopause. My name is Lisa Vasquez, and I am so thrilled and excited to embark on this journey, bringing out live conversations on the subject of menopause. But we're going to reflect back. We're going to come up from the menstrual cycle all the way through the woman in change. We want to take this conversation and build foundations in the workplace, in the healthcare systems. We want to bring more conversations and language to speak this language for women to be able to open up this conversation a lot more than what's being told right now. I come from a history of 45 years in the field of radiology. I specialized in breast health care, and I focused through a lens of disease and destruction. And a lot of times through that conversation with women, just by interviewing them with a history sheet, we were able to explore so much more. So through those 45 years, speaking with women individually all the time, we were able to connect. Women have become a human library for me. They've taught me so much, and in turn, with my special touch, I was able to get them through that mammogram exam and bring them back year after year. It's been a beautiful journey, but the problem with that journey was every day there was so much silence behind closed doors. There was so much pain that women were going through from a lot of times after a doctor's appointment, they'd come see me. After their appointment, they'd stop in, and there'd be a little sadness because the results came out great and they were happy about that. But the issues that were really needing to be captured were not being captured. So they were still lost in a dismay as they would travel on through life. And a lot of it was during work time, not having a lot of time to sleep, not having any sleep, being woken up in intermittent sleeping patterns, a lot of anxiety, women's health issues, having problems with digestion and different communications in the body that transformed their bodies. And they had a lot of challenges, and I've seen so much, and they taught me so much. And I'm excited today to open up this conversation. I am not a doctor, but I have spent my 45 years in radiology. I've built an educational foundation from that. I became a speaker, an author. I write about this. I've recently written a book. It'll be coming out March 25th. Girl in the Red, your hormones are showing. In general, women, our hormones are always showing. We're in just different phases. And these are the things that we're going to bring to your attention, to bring to your journey by notifying you of what's really happening, because everybody's so unique and we're all on different roads. Some are progressing, some are digressing. And we want everybody to go on that road for progression. So today I want to thank PR Connections Radio. They have given me a voice, and I've been waiting years to amplify my voice to speak for these women who lived in silent pain behind closed doors, who didn't know how to speak or how to talk about it. And today I get to do that. I am so excited about this. The biggest adventure I'm bringing you today is I am bringing in a new guest. My first guest, her name is Tina K Kailea, and she's coming to us from New Zealand. And if you know New Zealand, that's futuristic. And the reason I'm excited about the futuristic advertisement today is because we want to teach women to look beyond. Instead of just today, we want to take you so that you start preparing ahead of time as we journey through this journey, as we walk these roads, and we gain progression throughout our lives. Because we want to come into the workplace the same way we want to exit. As we come in, we would like to come back out the same way. So by learning so much through Liberating Menopause, I'm hoping that this all will give you a lot to reflect on and a lot to grow from and a lot to develop more of you, because there's so much in you to be revealed when you can step out of this and enjoy the next part of your life and living a real freedom of what menopause brings. So I really like to welcome Tina Kailea. Thank you so much for being here today. Welcome, Tina. She is a trailblazer. Tina comes from a corporate world and she had a lot of challenges. And I'm excited for Tina to explain to us and tell us all about these challenges because everyone has secret challenges behind closed doors and they keep it's so secretive to themselves that they don't know how to reach out to people. And in turn, that could lead to a lot of devastation. And it's a lonely road. So today, Tina's going to tell us about her journey in the corporate world. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be there. And like Lisa said, I'm coming from the future, from the beautiful place of Auckland, New Zealand. So we're not all about dragons and hobbits in New Zealand. We also have wild women and wild executives. And I am passionate about the menopause journey because of that silence of not actually being open about what is going on. And I was no different. I was stuck doing me. And I thought, menopause, you get a bit of hot flashes. I had no idea what this story actually entailed. I haven't never heard about perimenopause either. So my journey started in corporate. I've had a 25-year career, and it was always in male-dominated industry. There was roading, construction, health and safety, manufacturing, and then media and publishing. And one thing that I had to learn the hard way was that if we're denying ourselves the power of being feminine and actually showing up as a woman and not as someone who's trying to pretend to be a man in the man's world, it can do something to our nervous system, to our whole way of being. So I lived for a good 2 or 3 decades completely in my masculine energy, and I'll come back to that in a little later. But I didn't really see being female as an advantage, as something to be celebrated or to be proud of. I just wanted to knuckle down and achieve things. And I ended up in a corporate hamster wheel where I was constantly chasing the next client, the next success. And all of my values on who I was and the worthiness that I had, I looked for it on the outside. And that led me down a path of breakdown, burnout, adrenal fatigue, depression, and sadly, 5 miscarriages. And losing that control over how I show up and what I can do, because this was out of my control, it really catapulted me into a place where I had no idea who I was as a woman, as a career woman, as a then mother. So I had to find myself again. And it was in that deep reclamation of finding my way back to redefining success, womanhood, femininity, all those things where I learned about cycles and rite of passages. And my, I guess, journey led me down wanting to share my experience because I realized women do not really show vulnerability, certainly not at work. And I felt so lonely and so alone in my journey. When I started being open about it, women came up, I had a miscarriage and it happened to me twice. And I go, why are we not actually having these conversations about what goes on the inside? And it's because of fear of being seen vulnerable, because we feel, especially in corporate, that if we show weakness or vulnerability, we are being viewed as not being competent. So that was about a decade's journey. I've written a book about it. And when I hit menopause, I realized, it's the same thing again. We are going through a big transition. We're suffering in silence. And no one is actually having those conversations about, oh, I have brain fogs. I can't get out of bed at the morning. It's not just a hot flash. And then when I did some research and talked to women in corporate, I asked them the question, why are you so concerned about hiding what you're going through and pretending it's not even happening? And you know what really blew me away? They said, it is because I worry what my male colleagues think of me. And that was mic drop. To go, here we are in our 50s, pretending that nothing is happening, yet we're going through the most powerful change a woman can go through. And we're ashamed of it. So I'm really excited to be here to unpack some of those things a little bit. And thank you so much for allowing me to share a little bit of my background and my journey.
And so, see, the beauty of when I met Tina, we happened to be on a summit of real women speaking about menopause. This is the first summit that was ever open that I was involved in to see real women speaking. At the beginning of this conversation during the summit, they were really shy. But as we started gaining through more momentum in this conversation, and it was like 3 days, I think it was, right? Something like that. It was a couple of days. The women just started unpeeling like an onion. It just started, the aroma, you could smell it. They were really happy. They were just reeking this happiness to actually be able to speak this. And on the side of what Tina was talking about, where she did not hear that conversation, here I was in the medical system, feeling just like her in the masculine way, because the workplace has been structured for the male men. They're the ones that went to work. So when women finally became liberated and entered this field, women didn't come in knowing that we have 5 phases of our life, where men only have 2. So once they ignite at puberty, they're running strong all the way. I mean, even after, when they go into their pause, they're still running strong, having kids. But besides that, women, we have to stop. And like pistons, we're up. One got stuck, another one got stuck, and we're trying to go. Tina mentioned that it was at age 50, but I believe that when all these signs and changes really do show up is in 35 to 40. You start noticing, women start noticing that they're running out of energy, or they're not sleeping right, but they're not putting 2 and 2 together. So they're still walking this road, because by the time that 50th year comes, things really have piled up because it was not recognized. This is what women taught me behind closed doors. The conversation Tina was bringing up, that why women, they were speaking to me behind those closed doors, sharing all these examples and things that they're going through, and the pain and the anxiety and the relationships with their husbands, because if they're crying and they don't understand it, right, Tina, then how can they help them? So this is why we want to open this conversation up. Again, on my side of that male workplace is the uniforms. As Tina was saying, fashion means a lot. I mean, we need that confidence closet. We really do. I mean, and so where I was working at, everybody had the same uniform, and it was the same thing all the time in the male and the female. And unfortunately, when the shapes change in these uniforms, it really looks more like a camp than an environment to be enjoyed in a workplace. You know what I mean? And what took it away from me the most was that I'm working with women, and I was feeling like I was in my pajamas. I wasn't comfortable. I wasn't happy. In earlier days in my life, 45 years of radiology, but the early days we used to be able to dress. We'd have lab coats. We'd have, nice uniforms. Things have changed. And so going into this new world is why we're interested in breaking this conversation open. And in my case is that I'm seeing a lot of destruction happening to the healthcare workers themselves. And it's not even being recognized. And patients notice this, and they think that the help is getting worse than them, that they're feeling sicker than them. Sometimes they help the healthcare worker helping them. So it's a really different kind of swap. But women, these are things we want to open your eyes up today. So Tina, tell me, what was your experience in the corporate world? What shaped you to understand this? I mean, what happened with you that brought this out?
I went into corporate, all guns blazing, here to take on the world, to work my way up. And it was really fun when I first started. I remember being in publishing, and I walked down Times Square in my early 30s with my, my rolly case, just arrived off a plane, and Time Warner Retail was our distributor. So I thought I'd made it. And it was really fun when I first entered that world. But then the GFC hit, and I realized that certain personalities in my work environment, I had a narcissistic boss who showed true colors when everything started to crumble, and it was all hands to the pump. So I kind of slid into this world of complete free fall and anxiety and everything, that stress period, without really noticing, because I just thought, it's just what you do. I didn't blink an eye. But it was expectations of, the corporate pantsuit or the skirt. It was a certain length, a certain color. It always was heels. It was a nice little scarf, but that's where fashion stopped. There was no extreme earrings or accessories or color. So it was beige, navy, black, and brown. Those were the four things. If you would have looked at my closet, that was what I thought was a corporate lifestyle. Privately, I wear bright colors. I wear pink. I'm floaty. I'm doing all sorts of wild things. But I felt like every morning I had to, put it together, go to work. And over time, that together with the constant stress of financial pressure, a lot of work dynamics, I was not ever feeling like I was quiet or silent within my body. And as an embodiment coach, that's been my biggest journey, to listen to my body, because it was trying to tell me what you're doing to your body is not healthy. And the result was my body didn't deem it safe enough for me to carry a pregnancy to full term. That realization, with all the work in the healthcare journey I had, as well as my mindset and somatic practices to understand what has just happened to my body, that was a really hard pill to swallow, because when I was going through all of these miscarriages, my question was always, why? Why is this happening to me? I'm not that old. I'm healthy. Why is this happening? Why? So I assumed this was happening to me. And when I was listening to my body and understanding the detrimental effect that constant stress and elevated cortisol has on the female cycle, reproductive system, and mental health, I was blown away, and I realized I was a willing participant in this burnout journey. So when I teach about burnout, I not just look at workload and things. I actually go on the inside, in the subconscious, because we are sadly participating in a system where we put everybody else first and us second. And that is welcomed by society. It's welcomed by the work environment. We're always an afterthought until we become a little wild and come back to who we are, put boundaries in place, and show up strongly to go, you know what? No, I am not standing on heels anymore, because I don't want to. I can't. Where does it say in the corporate rule book you have to wear 9-inch heels and ruin your feet? Where does it say your blazer can only be navy or black or brown? It's often us conforming because we don't want to rock the boat. And I love women coming back to a bit of pizzazz and power to go, you know what? I'm different, and I'm going to show up as myself, because the stress of constantly contorting ourselves and wearing a corporate corset, as I call it, that is self-imposed. So it takes courage to break out of it, because we ruffle some feathers. We're not conforming, and people around us, they will notice, oh, you've changed. There would have been no pink in my closet a few years ago, period, because I always thought to myself, oh, I'm not girly, I'm not this, and I'm not that. And I go, where did I pick up that story along the way? That's not really me. So coming back to your essence is an important journey. And guess what? When we go into menopause, it's a rite of passage where we are no longer at the whim of our hormonal up and downs or our cyclical monthly menstrual cycle. We are becoming a lot more even, and the filter goes away. We stop caring so much what the outside world is imposing on us, and we become more true to our power. And that's a threat. And if you go back several centuries, that is part of the reason why we were exterminated, hunted, and seen as being inconvenient older women, because we can't be controlled by being dependent through pregnancy, having children, relying on someone else to provide food or income. There's a whole little thing to unpack, and that's where women quite often go, oh, never thought of it, never connected the dots. So I love to take them down a bit of a rabbit hole to go, look at history, look at all the different things, and how we are still playing into a system that is patriarchal, and it's made for men, not for women. Because we are powerful. We give birth, we give life. So if anyone thinks I'm not quite as powerful as a woman, think of that. And sadly, we've been told that that is actually a weakness rather than a something to embrace, something to celebrate. So that's a little bit about that.
Oh, yes. And so many women have come into that feeling that failure, feeling we do not pay attention to the messages our body's giving us.
Yeah.
And they're giving us so many at such a early age, as I was saying, 35 to 40. I mean, I speak to so many women today in that age, and they want to know what's happening to me. Why is this happening? What's going on? And it's really great that they're asking that now, but our women from the past didn't have that opportunity to ask any of that. In my history, starting in the 80s in my field, I was 20. My women had to be 50 to have a mammogram. So they're 30 years ahead of me. So this is how they gave me the view of looking beyond, because they took me beyond. They gave me what was happening to them. But at the same time, me not knowing really that was the menopause, menstrual cycle effects of woman and change, they didn't either. They were just telling me what's happening to them, what has happened to them, what they're going through. But they never came and said, oh, I just saw my doctor about this. And these were the things that were never raised as questions to the doctor, because they didn't know that this was a problem. And a lot of women have graduated through menopause and didn't even know that they were there. I'd be talking to 65-year-olds and they're like, I didn't know any of that. So then I had concerns about, wow, I had to wonder what kind of pain that was silent behind closed doors. Because, you know, even though in our primal worlds, we were always busy and we were trained to be busy like that. At that point, what was happening that she wasn't recognizing it? Because when these things hit, they're pretty loud, you know, especially if you're not listening, they're really going to hit you. But
it's going to knock on your door.
Yeah, and they just walked right through it. So I was like, wow, took my hat off to that one. And then the next one that came in is dispersing with, I had one condition of a woman who told me she was about to go into the books. She was having a hot flash every 5 minutes during that mammogram. And she told me that this is just ongoing. And they couldn't figure it out. And so I never did get to see her again to hear results from that. But she was going through that kind of change. And I'm standing there witnessing this, and I'm young and I'm watching and I'm wow. So you want to know, oh, how can I not go down that road? And this is what women taught me, how to avoid a lot of potholes on the road during our mission fields. And they'd lead me this way and I'd go that way. And sometimes if you went the wrong way, you'd get hit by it and you would know. So understanding all that about women. And again, people don't see this happening to us because we haven't spoken about it. So this is why, again, with my book coming out, it's to take young girls into that, educate them through every step. I mean, there's conversations in there, everything to make it that simple, and language to learn how to talk about it. Because again, now this is our next problem is we don't even know how to go to a manager and say that. So instead, we're just going to call in and we're going to get in trouble for that call in. But what are we going to do? How do we go tell them, you know, I didn't sleep last night because of my menopause, my menstrual cycle? You know, it's not going to really sound so much like an illness because we haven't made it an illness. You know what I mean? Menopause isn't an illness. It's a process. And so these symptoms that show up are real symptoms and they need to be addressed. I found in my healthcare space, I had no place to have that mental moment. You know, I mean, I leave these people that I'm working with and then the environment that I'm working in. And then I go to the cafeteria where it's just loud, banging noises, all this stuff's cooking. There's still no place to mentally really take yourself to. So eventually I started running at noontime so I could release the morning and prepare for the next day. And lucky for me, because I worked in mammography, we had wipes and all that stuff for women. So I was able to, you know, secure myself, come back and look like I didn't do that. But I was refreshed mentally. And these were things I had to learn. And I thank women for that. So what do you think are the biggest barriers for women in the workplace, in your corporate world, that are locked in that?
I think I bring it back to the individual women, and this is, again, why the conversation is so important. Having a shared experience that we're not alone is a big deal. We wired to nourish and to connect. That's just the way of the feminine. And I've been holding women's circles in my somatic work and my embodiment work for years. And I have been doing the same conversations more in a networking corporate arena. But I call it the anti-networking because I don't want to hear about what your title is or what you work to or what you've achieved. I want to know what's happening to the woman behind the scenes. So I normally ask them, and this throws a lot of women, tell me who you are. And they go, I'm the CEO of La. I said, no. Who are you? And there's silence because it's like trying to install Apple software on a Samsung phone. That doesn't compute. So the actual question who you are, if you don't have your titles, that was my biggest moment of crisis, to go, who am I? I'm no longer the general manager of this publishing house. I had no idea who I was. So there's a reclamation, and that allows us to show up more from our truth, where we go to work and go, yes, I have flashes. I am 50. I'm not going to pretend that I have a migraine. And one thing that I always share, and I have a couple of them branded, is if I have a hot flash, I'm sitting at work when I was still in that world, and I used a bright fan, and people going, what are you doing, flamenco dancing now? I go, no, I'm having a flash and I'm fanning myself. Or if I do turn purple, I do martial arts. So I often stand in front of the class with a 3mm karate uniform in the middle of summer. If I turn the color of our beautiful banner, I had to tell people, look, I'm not having an incident or anything. I'm just having a flash, and I'm going to turn purple, and it's going to pass. Because one of the things I found, the more you try and suppress, and this is a very visible symptom, the brain fog and a whole lot of the other things is not. But by embracing it and maybe not taking it quite so serious, I find they pass quicker because I'm not making a big deal, because that puts extra stress. If you're trying to go, oh my goodness, I'm turning purple, I'm sweating, I'm trying to suppress it, it's not going to work. It's just going to be more amplified and last longer. So coming back to your own, taking your power back in corporate, you need to take a stand. And it doesn't mean you ruffle feathers or you have your period and you ruin an empire. But just saying honestly, look, I'm going through my cycle today. I'm not feeling 100%. I think I would love women to challenge the work environment in a way where you can say, look, we're cyclical. When I am not on my moon time, I'm actually more powerful. And this is something I encourage women to learn. You're 28 different people through your average cycle. You have your ups and downs. If you actually work within your strength of these 4 phases of your menstrual cycle, you'd be amazed how effortless your life feels, because society tells us when we're on our bleed, we're supposed to just carry on and pretend it's not happening. It's inconvenient. It's suppressed. It's got a taboo. It's dirty. That goes into another conversation of us not actually seeing it as a natural thing, and it's something that should be hidden at all cost. But it is actually quite powerful when you honor your body, your energetics, and what you feel like you need in any kind of moment. But it takes courage to express that. So more honesty, and also women who made it to the top, who hold those senior positions, be a little bit more compassionate. Just because you made it and have a seat at the table, don't forget the path you worked through to get there. You can be softer, you can be more feminine. And no one is necessarily vying for your office or your job. We women, I've seen women on the same corporate level, and they're sitting in corner offices on opposite sides of the buildings. They don't have coffee together. They barely greet each other in the hallway. They have this competition thing going on to go, the men don't have that. They go for lunch, they play golf, go for weekends away. We have perpetuated this toxic competition. And if we actually empower one another, that we would be having a lot more correspondence and open conversations about those topics. Because if you have another woman who backs you, who, adjusts your crown without ever telling you she had to do that, that's when we become seen and heard, and we feel like we have community. So find those women, make the first step towards them, and introduce yourself to go, hey, I've noticed you're in that office. Do you want to grab a coffee? Instead of constantly looking at women around you like they're about to take something from you. And that comes back to the mindset we have inherited, and we are living into that. And that takes maybe sometimes somebody who's a wild executive to go, let's go this way and let's go into the uncomfortable conversations. You'll be refreshed and you're coming back to community rather than competition.
Yes, for sure. I mean, and that's the whole idea about this conversation, Liberating Menopause, is we want that higher top corporate health systems, everybody to look down and see that we are women. We all need help. We need things to change. We need a more comfortable workspace. I mean, people are suffocating in tight uniforms, but they're having hot flashes and they're not being recognized. I mean, again, when you were talking about that stress relieving in that hot flash, I didn't have to go through many of them. I had more night sweats, but I was always cold. So I kind of embraced them. But when it would happen for those moments, I would really just relax, just as I did when my menstrual would come, my clock. I would know that the clock is on and I would embrace it because body's doing what it is. It was on time. It was here. It's, all good. I mean, it's painful. I had a lot of cramps in mine, but it was what my body did. And it was a signal every month, and every month it was something I embraced. I relaxed the body. I wanted to release the stress because, again, yes, we raise that cortisol with those hot flashes because we're used to a reaction and we react right away. And that's just too automated. We need to stop that automation. And wow, this is my body. Look, it's on time, especially when this first hits you,
Yeah,
this
live
first
into
time
it.
that change. Yes. And but listen to it because those messages are so important and they're the first signs to tell you, okay, the one big thing that I do notice is that women do not take baseline studies of their chemistry panels. Nobody's ever taught them that. And people don't want to discuss that because it entangles the physicians and doctors and things like that to get more involved on this subject. And it gets complicated. And we're changing all that today. I mean, people are actually creating, I think it was in Australia, they're coming out with a new program that's just focused for menopause. And I think in the UK now they're sending people in high school, they're starting them with education. I mean, these conversations are going to be so healthy for us in the future. But for right now, we need to help ourselves and learn more about this by having those leaders really open something up. I mean, there's not a lot of businesses, industries that are reaching out for this, but yet the industry of workplace is built on nothing but women. So we need to help create that change, to do something, to take that stand, because what the suffer and the loss and the call-ins and the loss of production because of all this is a lot of money being lost. When if we can empower and build that foundation, the industry would just grow so much more. So yeah, right. I mean, that mental moment, I think that mental moment, mothers place, some place for women to just, whether you're a mother or not, to just go to and be able to relax instead of having to just, because there's no place. There is no place. Even in corporate buildings, it's all secretaries typing, all these different things, but there's no little place. I mean, in hospitals and stuff, we have a little room or something, right? But you guys don't. So that really has to complicate your work week and days all day long with no escape. I mean, as far as I know, because I grew up in Chicago, so I know the downtown world, and you go in the buildings and all that stuff, and then you come downstairs and it's all traffic and it's all, and now you're running to eat, or and then you got to hurry back, and now you're going back in those elevators, and it's just a lot. So we need to do something. So what do you envision for the future for your corporate? How would you?
I'm fortunate, coming from the future, that New Zealand and also Australia is leading in actual awareness. We have got a whole lot of mid-50 women with white hair and bright jackets and bright fans. They are doing education in the workplace. They also have an accreditation program. There is parts of university with women of color and neurodiversity, because they experience that differently than from the mainstream. So we're very fortunate. We're very outspoken, and I think New Zealand, with the suffragette movement and a certain other things that we've pioneered. We've had 3 female prime ministers since I've moved here 25 years ago.
Wow.
We're a little bit different. So I would love to have more global conversations, because we come from different backgrounds. And I watch what's unfolding in America at the moment, and certain things, without going down that route, it fills me with horror what's going on, because I have friends who tell me every day, well, this was changed and now that bill, it's going, we're having power eroded somewhere in the somewhere in the undercurrent, I call it. So coming here, we have open discussion. There is work at menopause at work. There's a whole group on LinkedIn with all New Zealand women, all the way to the top brass in CEOs and CFOs who sit in big companies and on boards, who are leading that charge. And I'd love to have that happening in Australia, in Asia, and corporate America. That is where I would love to be, and be a Pied Piper to go, well, I'm coming from overseas. Let me show you what is possible in our corporate structure, and open up the discussions with women in corporate America to say, why can't we? If we all stick together, if we have a much louder voice if we are coming into communion and community to break these taboo and stigmas out of it. And take your bright fan to work, make a stand. There's nothing in any contract that says, oh, you can't possibly sit behind your desk with a bright fan. So that's been a bit of a thing down here, where people like telling you, well, I'm having a menopause, I'm proud of it, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'm just whip up my fan because I'm having a flash. Normalize it. And there's a lot of education too, especially in the government sector here, where also the men get a bit of a crash course on how it feels like, because sometimes women at home trying to be that perfect wife, I guess, or partner, where we don't let them in on quite the depth of what we're going through. It's because we feel like, well, I can't talk to my husband like that. He won't understand. He's not a woman. But then in corporate, they're getting a bit of a front row seat of what's unfolding. And we had some really interesting discussions. My husband is a police officer. So they had a big meeting and a big workshop where all of the police officers had a chance to learn about menopause, including the male colleagues, because they often get paired, their partner, they go out and patrol together. You're going to have to understand a few things, which is, I think, amazing.
That really is. I'm really excited to hear that, because I actually gained my education through the menopause experts in the UK. That was where I reached to find that program for building that foundation to become part of this big movement. And it's very exciting. I'm looking forward to having more conversations with you on this, Tina, in the future, because this is really a great stand for me to open this up today. I appreciate you being here today. And I'm looking forward to everything that we're going to help create that change with. Again, I just want to talk about, having my book come out. When that book comes out, it's exciting because it's really opening that conversation for the young generation, who they're going to be able to share these conversations with each other, because hopefully more than one will get that book. And then they say, hey, did you read this chapter? Did you read that? Did you know this happens? It's going to be so exciting that this is going to be opened up, because there's so much to talk about this. So I want to thank you so much for being here today. This has been like extraordinary to have this first moment, the first episode of Liberating Menopause, and talking about this, because this is what we really need to do. Open up that conversation, bring it out openly. And I do have my fan, I just don't have it here, but you're right. The more we use those, that will be making the statement. Yep. Because they thought you were a flamingo dancer.
It is a statement. And don't be afraid to be colorful or a little wild. And thank you so much for having me. And I hope that this conversation is going to awaken a lot of your listeners. And for those out there, find community. Find community.
Thank you. Yes, that's what we want to open this up for us, because they're out there. We just got to get them to speak and listen to their hormones, because they're speaking. Thank you, Tina. Thank you so much. And
thank you.
Again, thanking the PR Connections Radio Network radio for bringing this on and allowing me to have this platform. Thank you.
PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.